little while ago, I made a video titled How Hyperlands Can Rise to Glory. It detailed what, in my personal opinion, would be a path to improvement for the Hyperlands Minecraft server. Since the video was posted, multiple staff, including the owner, have responded, and the server has been updated twice. I'd like to take a look at these staff responses and updates and express my thoughts about them. If you haven't already, I highly recommend watching the original How Hyperlands Can Rise to Glory video before continuing. Link in the description. Let's take a look at the first of the staff responses, coming from the moderator Hawaii. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Great video, man. Since I'm a Hyperlands staff member, I wanted to clear a few things up. So Hyperlands is trying to get out of Hypixel Shadow. Free's resolve is strong. He knows he has something really special here, and we don't ignore suggestions. We look at our suggestions daily, although some are overlooked by its time created. Although I love your ideas, and I'll make sure to get this to our creativity team, and really hope we can get more popularity so we can overall help the server thrive here. Thank you so much for making this video. It gave me some ideas I can relay to our team and make sure the community can really see that we do listen. Have a good day whoever reads this, and again, thank you for your opinion on the matter, Sodumb. Hawaii or Tropical Man. First of all, I would like to thank Hawaii for both the compliments and the response. It's really appreciated. Next, I'd like to analyze his response. One of the first things he says is that Hyperlands is trying to get out of Hypixel Shadow, and to an extent, I would agree with him. Hyperlands has got new maps and ranks that differ from Hypixel's. However, what's interesting is that the actual games themselves, excluding maps, seem to be becoming more and more like Hypixel games. Recently, there have been two updates for the Bridge and Bed Wars. The Bridge update took a game that was quite different from Hypixel's Bridge and turned it into something very similar. The Bed Wars update, although minor, still took Hypixel features and incorporated them into Hyperlands Bed Wars. With these kinds of updates, Hyperlands will never become anything except Hypixel and Bedrock Edition. Some players may make the argument that these updates make the game more fun for the majority of the player base, and there's a good chance that's true. However, is it morally correct for Hyperlands to be copying Hypixel? Whether you yourself think so or not, it's undeniable that Hyperlands is closing itself off to a significant number of players because of this. An example of that closing off is YouTuber Potatopi, who in his video discussing what the best Skywars server is on Bedrock states, "Being completely honest, I didn't really have a bad time playing on the server, but the thing is that, like Nether games, Hyperlands is just blatantly stealing Hypixel's property." After his statement about Hyperlands moving away from Hypixel, Hawaii talks about how Free Gaming here, the owner of Hyperlands, does have a strong resolve, which I don't deny as I myself wouldn't know. Then he mentions how Hyperlands does read a lot of suggestions they get, and although this is probably true, I would still love to see more direct feedback. Lastly, he ends off stating that he'll get the video to the creative team and that he hopes the server can thrive, which is all really cool. Once again, I would really like to thank him for taking the time to write this response. And let's move on to what the owner said about my video. "Hey content creator, I watched your video about how Hyperlands could become better, and I have to admire your dedication. The video was really informative and professional. I'd just like to provide a correction. The reason we're not hiring any developers is not the one provided in the video. The server is, in fact, financially healthy. The actual reasoning is a variety of factors that made us not want to hire any extra developers for the moment. The most important one being trust issues. It's hard to trust people from the internet, and many past experiences of developers that the server has had were either scams or people breaking our original deal, and all of them were notable developers with a very good reputation that got good pay for their work. In addition to that, it's hard to rely on other people because most of the time they'll just work effortlessly and make their code barely work just for the money. Furthermore, I am also a developer and I've been maintaining the server and doing most of the updates alone for most of the time. And I've learned not to rely on others, and I don't necessarily need more than one extra developers to get the server running well, with a good amount of updates and bug fixes. Sure, a few more developers would be a great addition, but I also think it would be a struggle to find. Most are taken, and a risk to hire. And to be completely honest with you, there aren't a lot of things for them to be able to do. Bigger servers have more developers than Hyperlands and release way less updates and are way less stable. Why? Because the developers aren't doing anything for most of the time, and there aren't a lot of things you can get somebody to do when there's a limitation to the server files they can access, for obvious security reasons / trust issues. Hyperlands is a community-based network, and I want to feel like the staff, builders, or developers, everyone, have more than just a basic worker and boss relationship with me. And that's also how Hyperlands became so successful. We motivate each other to push great updates and give the best of ourselves to the server, and we're like a family. If there's a sudden increase to our player counts, I'll gladly try to find more developers, for probably some update that I have limited time to do myself. But at the moment, there isn't a significant need for more, and most of the developer offers we've received so far weren't that impressive, not financially, but mostly skill-based plus not necessarily trustworthy. Similar to why, I would like to thank Free Gaming here for both noticing and responding to my video, and his statements about it being hard to find developers that are trustworthy and skill-worthy are, in all likeliness, completely true, but there are a couple of things about his statement that I would like to comment on. Firstly, he states his server is financially healthy. Of course, this is a broad term, but I would infer that this means the server makes more money than it costs to run it, possibly by a large margin. If this is true, couldn't Free Gaming here invest in more or better servers to run Hyperlands? I'm definitely not the only one who has experienced consistent server lag in games like Skywars for hours, so I decided to ask Free Gaming here about exactly why Hyperlands does not invest into better servers. Here's his response. The thing with what you're saying is that we have one of the best CPUs in the market of hosting. Most of the servers run on a stable 19 to 20 ticks per second, but the problem with Skywars specifically is that even the best CPU in the world wouldn't reduce the lag by a lot. To say it with an easier and more understandable way, it doesn't lag because it can't handle the players, but because of some specific tasks that momentarily use 100% of the CPU, causing lag spikes and not consistent lag. Some of these tasks are cage removals, adding the cages initially, and chest refills. Since I thought that was a reasonable answer, I decided to ask him why he didn't invest in more servers, for example, a separate server for each game of Skywars. He provides a list of technical reasons, which are shown on screen. Because I am not educated on server coding or hosting, I'm going to assume that what he says is true. And if there is anyone watching who is an expert on coding or hosting, please leave a comment confirming or denying what Free Gaming, the owner of Hyperlands, said. The second point in Free Gaming here's original statement regarding my video that I would like to talk about is his quote stating, "I've learned not to rely on others and I don't necessarily need more than one extra developer to get the server running well, with a good amount of updates and bug fixes." Although I agreed with his other reasons of not hiring more developers, the claim that Hyperlands doesn't need more developers is something that I strongly disagree with. There are bugs that have been in the game for weeks, if not months, like fireballs destroying the map in Bed Wars and early void in Bridge. So, once again, I got a response from Free Gaming about the subject. He expressed that he and Flanger didn't know how to fix the fireball bug, and the early void bug on Bridge was easy to fix and he just needed to change a small bit of code once I told him what maps were affected. The Bed Wars fireball bug does support my claim that Hyperlands does need more developers, although in this situation it's more related to a possible hired developer knowing a specific skill. The early void bug on some Bridge maps seemed as if a lack of communication between the developers and bug reporters was at fault, and could easily be fixed by having staff report bugs to Free Gaming here more often. Next, I decided to ask him a question which wasn't related to his original response, but something that I was interested in hearing. Do you want Hyperlands to become more like Hypixel, as previous updates recently have supported the claim Hyperlands is just trying to become a Hypixel clone? A lot of staff within Hyperlands, and if I'm not mistaken including you, have stated that Hyperlands would like to move away from being like Hypixel, but recent updates haven't reflected this. He responded by saying that Hyperlands likes being original, and it's just that in some games originality is hard to achieve. Then I asked why Hyperlands couldn't implement at least a few original ideas to games like Bridge and Bed Wars, or at least ideas that were different from Hypixel, even if those ideas were similar to other servers' features, and I proceeded to make a point about Hyperlands Bed Wars is just an exact copy of Hypixel Bed Wars. Next, he said copying Hypixel wasn't intentional, just that Hyperlands was implementing features players asked for. I showed him a quote from earlier in the video, we talked about more minor features for a little while, and then the interview ended with him restating his previous point about Hyperlands being like Hypixel is caused by community suggestion. I personally think that if community suggestions are making you copy another server, even if it's not intentional, you should stop listening to those suggestions. That's just my personal opinion, though, and I understand if you think differently. Obviously, no hate to Hyperlands is intended. Everyone in Hyperlands was extremely professional and respectful. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. The original How Hyperlands Can Rise to Glory video is on screen. Feel free to watch it. Bye bye.